go.
I've done it again. Let me do that again. Good morning to Mick. Good morning to Gary, to Andy, to who else have we got? To Peter McKenna, to Chris Ford, to Gary Muirhead, and to Dan Cullen. My apologies. I need to work out how to do that transition a little bit more smoothly. I do need to work. I think you should all be hearing from me now. Good morning to Jim Turner as well. If anyone can let me know that they can hear me, that would be very, very useful. Yes, good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? My apologies, the voice is a bit deeper today. Did a lot of speaking over the last couple of days, as you can probably imagine. My apologies once again for my absence yesterday, but as you will see a bit later in the show, my absence was thoroughly justified by my trip to the JCB World headquarters. And thank you very much indeed, Andy Dalville, for letting me know that I'm coming through loud and clear. Now, if you were watching at the very, very beginning, you'll know that we do actually have a very, very exclusive JCB giveaway for you today, and I'll be revealing all of that in just a moment. But first, I do want to say a very quick note of thanks to the team at JCB for taking such good care of us all over the past few days. Can't name them all individually because there's dozens of them, but I would like to give a very specific nod to Nigel, to Ian, to Paul, to Reese, to Richard, to Tim, and to Georgina. You all know who you are, and thank you everybody at the JCB team, including the people that laid on lunch. Oh, what a lunch. Thoroughly enjoyed your company. Look forward to seeing you all next month. Now, I did mention an exclusive JCB giveaway, and this really is very, very exclusive. I'm going to show it to you as best I can because it's going to be easier to show it to you than to describe. So it comes in a package that says that, let's clear the air. And then on the other side, it says JCB. Not, as you might imagine, a book, though. There's one side of the inside, the power to change the world, JCB branding on the back. But if you open it up, see that?
I'm often asked,
I'll play it with here.
Where does the power come from? It comes from that.
Yes. That is the voice of none other than Lord Bamford. There's a video encapsulated on that. Now, it's not in the traditional sense of like an iPad or a Kindle or something like that. It is a one use, but it is rechargeable and it is an absolute collector's item. Don't suppose there'll be too many of those out in the wild. You can win one today. To make life nice and easy for you, let me show you exactly how you can do that. I think a few people have already guessed. There you are. All you need to do to win that, I will be demonstrating a bit later on in the chat, during the show rather, but all you need to do is type JCB into the chat, and we will be doing the prize draw at the very end of the show. And I can tell you, we've already got 6 entries, and I've only just announced it. So thank you very much indeed for everybody that has taken part so far. Keep those guesses coming in, or not guesses, just keep typing JCB. All good stuff. And just to be absolutely clear, I know we're now coming through loud and clear over on Instagram. The problem is I can't actually take entries from Instagram because our system doesn't recognize them. So if you would like to enter over on Instagram, you need to hop over to YouTube or to Facebook, search for Demolition News, and you will find us right there. But that is up for grabs. I will do a bit more of a demonstration a little bit later in the show. But even if you don't win today, don't worry, we've got you covered. We've got another couple of bits and pieces to give away. Not quite as cool or as exclusive, but they're well worth winning. So if you're into JCB or if you're just into diggers, stick around later in the week because we've got more to give away. So without further ado, it is going to be a very JCB themed show today. So I hope that's all okay with you. Yeah, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get the show on the road. And because the microphone wasn't on, happy birthday, happy Valentine's Day to you one and all. Know that you are loved, please. Yes, let me do this. Yes, it is Wednesday, the 14th of February, 2024, and a very happy Valentine's Day to you all. Whether you're married, single, or in any kind of relationship, please know that you're loved by all of us here at the Breakfast Show. Just don't ask us for money or sex. Just don't do that. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we'll show you what we got up to at the JCB World Headquarters over the past 48 hours. We're going down under with a massive Liebherr excavator. We're in South Africa to take a look behind the scenes at the Bell Heavy Industries factory, and we're going to see how JCB is breathing new life into its most iconic product. Plus, we will see one of the new models that Bomag will be rolling out at Intermat 2024. But before we get to all of that, there is the small matter of our mystery machine to decipher. We need to play the animation first, which looks a bit like this. I'm going to throw over to the chat very quickly. Dan Cullen saying, having a hunt Valentine's Day. Okay. There's my other half saying happy Valentine's Day to me. Peter McKenna echoing my sentiments entirely. We're all loved by someone, somewhere, somehow. I'd like to think that is the case. Sorry to hear that our friend Footy didn't get the job that he was up for, but plenty more to have a go at. I did, Gary. I did ask precisely why. The answer wasn't entirely explanatory. Basically, JCB, obviously, as you well know, they go into shows, they go out of shows, they go into shows, and they go out of shows. They are going to be back at Hillhead this year. I did gather that, but apparently, Intermat was the first one that they ever ditched and didn't decide to go back, which is a shame. But listen, I've seen what they've launched so far. They've got more launches on in March, and I think Intermat is going to be plenty busy enough anyway. So thank you for the reminder on that. I'll come back to all of the questions of the day in just a second, but we've already played the intro for the mystery machine. So this is what you've got to work with. I'd like to know, let me just take Gary off the screen temporarily. This is what you've got to work with. Can you identify this? Yeah, I think you can all tell that's a wheel, and it's got a tyre on it. Doesn't tell you much apart from that, but yes, if anybody's got any clues on what that might be, please let me know in the chat. We will be revealing a little bit more in just a moment, but that's what you've got to work with so far. So start those guesses coming in, and don't forget, this is up for grabs. I'll demonstrate that again in a second, because we do need to get on with the show, but that is up for grabs. If you would like to be in with a chance of winning a very exclusive prize, please put JCB, just type JCB into the chat, would you be so kind. Had a couple of guesses. Nobody's got the right one yet, I'll tell you that much, but we do need to crack on. So let me have a look. Just seen Peter's answer to our question of the day about who or what was your first love. Just leave that hanging there. So yes, very quick reminder. Here is reminder of our question of the day. Yeah, our question of today is, it's obviously in keeping with the fact that today is St. Valentine's Day. I'd like to know who or what was your first love. In answer to what was your first love, I'm going with West Ham. They've let me down a lot over the years, but I was smitten at an early age, and I remain passionately in love with them to this day, much to my constant disappointment. In terms of who, I'm going with a little blonde girl called Julie Harrington. A year or two older than me. She taught 11-year-old me how to kiss. Not sure it's a skill I've ever actually mastered, but I greatly appreciated the lessons at the time. So, Julie Harrington, wherever you are, thank you for that. What about you? Who or what was your first love? Let us know in the chat, and we'll come back to it right at the end of the show. Speaking of show, let us begin. I will be saving the question of the day to the end of the show, but I do need to share two, which really, I think both of them sum up in some way exactly what our audience is all like. So, who or what was your first love? Peter McKenna says, I had a favourite cow at my uncle's farm. She was amazing. He does clarify that he was only 8 at the time. And Gary Muirhead, the other extreme. Who or what was your first love? Has to be Steel Wrist, of course. Steel Wrist, if you're watching, you have a fan who is verging on being a stalker. But yes, still got lots of guesses coming in on our mystery machine, which I will add to the show. There's a little bit more. Nobody's got it right yet. I'll tell you that much. Nobody has got it right yet. That's what you've got to work with so far. But nobody's got it right yet. Now, I did mention the fact that we were going to start the show, so I'm going to. As you know, on Monday afternoon and yesterday morning, the massed ranks of the UK and the French construction press were at the JCB World headquarters as the company unveiled their latest round of new machines. As expected, it was a great fun event, even though it rained for most of the open air part. But that was more than offset by the hospitality. No one, and I do mean no one, looks after its guests quite like the team at JCB. A bit later in the show, I'm going to be showing you some of the specific models. But the launch involved a couple of new mini excavators, an electric dumper, a pair of new teleskids, and a couple of Vibramax rollers as well. Plus the thing that we're going to show you at the end of the show. So just to give you a bit of a flavour of what it was that we all went to see, here's this. Now, the sharp-eyed among you may have spotted a certain young lady in amongst all of that, and it was this young lady.
Hi, I'm Georgina Williams, aka JCB Digger Girl, and you're watching The Breakfast Show.
Yeah, the JCB Digger Girl. She's an absolute pleasure to deal with, honestly. We got to shoot a couple of films with Georgina, and I have to tell you, she's a really smart lady. She did a guided tour of one of the new backhoe loaders in a single take, which takes some doing. Trust me, I know about these things. A really good company too, great company too. She was our host at lunch yesterday. Fantastic value. Looking forward to doing more with Georgina in the future, but we do have more films coming with her as the star in a not too distant future. Stick around till a bit later in the show, and you'll see. She can drive a bit too. Now, I am going to crack on in just a moment. Lots and lots and lots of guesses about our mystery machine, which I'm going to throw up on the screen. I'm going to give you a bit more. There you are. I can tell you who's saying Volvo loading shovels from Dan Cullen. No, it is not. JCB 3CX Site Master says Gary Muirhead. It is not. Cat 444. No, it is not. JCB 457 loading shovel. No. JCB 437. It's not. JCB High Vis. No, it's not. Pothole Pro. No, it's not. JCB Fast Track. However, I have noticed a lot of you have picked up on the theme of today's show. Let's just say you're in the right ballpark. You are in the right ballpark. Now, speaking of JCB, I'm going to do a more thorough demonstration of the giveaway for today. I'm going to have a very quick look, see what we've got. We're up to 14 entries, which is fantastic. Jim Turner, it is not a Hydrema. So here is what it looks like. That's the packaging, front and back. Then you open it up and you get this thing here. And if you open it up, I'm going to play it near there.
Where does the power come from? It comes from that.
Yep, that is the voice of Lord Bamford himself, talking about all things hydrogen, which kind of explains the green colour, I guess. As I say, it is a one-use device, but it is rechargeable. As I say, it's going to be a bit of a collector's item, that, particularly when you think we are going to be seeing those machines, hydrogen machines, in the wild in the not too distant future. Is that what we're going to see in March? They're playing their cards pretty close to their chest, but it may well be, particularly given that the non-road mobile machinery directive is due to be, or the consultation is due to conclude at the end of March, and I'm going up to JCB just before that. Could we be seeing something of a hydrogen bias? I don't know. Now, a few people have got on the right track. Gary Muirhead is saying JCB 714. It is not. Ken Hatcher, a bit wide of the mark. JCB small loader. It is not. Andy Darvell says JCB's old 2-axle articulated dump truck getting closer. JCB dumper, says Crystal, getting closer too. But we have a winner. Peter McKenna. Peter McKenna is right on the money. And just to prove that he is right on the money, there you are. That's what we had to work with. It is the JCB 712 articulated dump truck, which, if I play all of this, there you are. That's what it looked like. No longer in the product range, which is a damn shame, because it was a very, very good machine. As you can see, bit ahead of its time, bit like the Hydreamer, but ahead of its time. But yes, there we are. Dan Cullen saying the JCB cab dumper, which is correct, but not the full answer. JCB cab dumper looks a bit like a 90s style thing. It was a 90s style thing. And Dan Cullen saying the 714, it was not the 714, it was the 712. So congratulations to Peter McKenna. Unfortunately, that doesn't win you the JCB prize for today, which is, as I say, let me take that off the screen for a moment. It is that. That's what you've got to win. There is one. I've got one of those up for grabs. If you would like to be in with a chance, just do what it says at the bottom of the screen there. Type the word or the letters JCB, no spaces, into the chat, and you will be entered into the prize draw, which we will get to at the very end of the show.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So, from Uttoxeter to Australia, courtesy of Liebherr and an R600 mining excavator.
So the Mount Pleasant operation is a thermal coal mine located 3 kilometres from the township of Muswellbrook in the Hunter Valley. So when the TEAS team did the analysis as to which 600-tonne machine to buy for the Mount Pleasant operation, they took into account a lot of factors: capital cost, cost to maintain, dig rate, and it's no surprise that the 9600s come out on top. And we've been operating these machines here for near on 10 months, and they've definitely been exceeding the expectations that TEAS have had of the machine.
The Liebherr Mount Thorley team were ultimately responsible for the pre-planning, the planning and assembly of the 9600 on site. Post-commissioning, the machine was supported with embedded service technicians operating on 7-day coverage, customer support representative and a customer support manager dedicated to site.
The support from Liebherr Mount Thorley has been nothing short of amazing. So these machines went to work late in 2022 and early 2023. Their availability has been in excess of 93%. And the transition from our operators moving from the right-hand side of cab in a 996 across to the left-hand side in the 9600 was seamless.
I absolutely love operating the Liebherr 9600s. The 9600 is a much faster machine. Everything's so much better about it. It's bigger, it's faster, everything's new, the comfort, the visibility. Biggest key feature would have to be the breakout power. It's that next to none of any other digger that I've operated. The brake, the bucket assist, it just peels through the dirt. Like, you don't have to fight against the machine. It's a lot faster, more comfortable, more visibility. It's just unreal every day. It's not like you come into work, especially to operate a piece of gear like this. It's next level.
The technology has come a long way. These 9600s offer optional features, including the automatic bucket fill and anti-stall feature. And here at Mount Pleasant, the anti-stall feature has proven to reduce that bucket fill time by close to a second. Liebherr have been able to design and tune the hydraulic system to pair exceptionally well with the Cummins engines. So much so that the fuel consumption has reduced dramatically on these 9600s compared to the 996 and competitor machines. When we combine the availability of the machine with the utilisation and the dig rate, we've seen some outstanding performance in this machine. In the month of May 2023, that machine produced 1.64 million BCM in the month. And listen, there's not too many electric rope shovels out there delivering that type of rate. And most recently, we delivered a shift whereby over 40,000 BCMs of material was moved in one shift. So Tisa's experience with Liebherr Australia has been excellent. The machines have performed exceptionally since they went to work. You know, they're tier 1 machines. Everyone wants to operate them, and when they get behind the controls, they work the machine hard.
The future for Thiess and Liebherr is an incredibly prosperous one. I believe it will entail further machines. Liebherr will continue to deliver strong support for the existing fleet, and obviously Liebherr keeping Thiess up to speed with additional customer solutions as they come to light. Liebherr Australia, and more particularly Liebherr globally, are incredibly pleased with the results delivered by the 9600 on site to date. It truly has set the benchmark for 9600.
Bit of a mixed bag of reaction to that. Ken Hatcher says, bit boring driving that. I think he's in the minority. That's an animal machine. Well done to the lady operating. Peter McKenna says, what the hell is a BCM? I don't know. I did hear that, and I don't know. Graham Williams says, what an awesome piece of kit. Love to drive that. Fantastic machine, says Gary Muirhead, but still love the O&K RH range of equipment. Prime Earth Movers, yeah, they were fantastic beasts, weren't they? Steve Williamson, who belatedly joined us, says, Beast of a Liebherr, that another machine on the list I'd like to have a go on. I do need to answer a question from Dan Cullen, who says, Mark, are you far from Wimbledon? Not a million miles. I'm probably, to drive it would probably take me about 20 minutes, I guess, on the train, 4 or 5 stops. But no, not a million miles away. Not too far away. Andy Darvell says, I didn't know Liebherr made mini diggers. If you consider that a mini digger, you've been very, very spoiled. Computer generated subtitles, Liebherr and Libya. Yes, I'm sure that is exactly the case, and I'm sure I've told you all this before. My youngest daughter did actually think that when I was talking about the Liebherr, I was talking about a person. First name Lee, second name Bear. Ken Hatcher has clarified, billion cubic meters. That makes perfect sense. Peter McKenna says, thanks. Wonder what the cost is per cubic meter of dirt excavated. Yeah, I wonder. That's one thing about Down Under, all huge equipment. Yeah, I have to say, if I wanted to do this show on a grander scale, I'd love to be in either Australia, surrounded by sharks and snakes and spiders, or in America, just for the big gear. Stephen Whitehead has just joined the show. Good morning, Stephen, and he's just entered the competition as well. Speaking of Stephens and competition, Steve Williamson, you haven't entered the competition as yet, as far as I can tell, and I'm going to do a very quick recap before we press on. In actual fact, we're going to be back with JCB in a moment, but just a moment. But this is what is up for grabs. Looks like that on one side, looks like that on the other. I'll pop that out. There we are. That's one side, that's the other side. It is not, however, a book. It is a video player.
I'm often asked, why hydrogen?
Yes. Once again, Lord Bamford is called by to pop onto the show. Thank you, Lord Bamford. Very, very welcome here. Everybody, please keep typing JCB into the chat. We're up to 16 entries now, so you've got a 16 in 1 chance of winning that. And as I say, I don't suppose it has any real intrinsic value, although I would imagine that value will go up when we do actually have commercially available mass-produced hydrogen machines at some point, because that is a bit of a forerunner. But who wouldn't want to own that? Because it is pretty damned exclusive. Now, let's have a smidgen of this before we crack on. Now, I'm going to answer this question very quickly. Has he not retired yet? No, he has not. He's into his 70s, but he is still there, still very much at the helm. Didn't get to see him this week, this time up there, but he is still very much at the helm. There has been some talk, though, apparently. I was talking, I'm not going to name the person, but I was speaking to one of the JCB people, and apparently there is talk in the ranks about possible succession. As you know, Lord Bamford does have two sons, Joe and George, both of whom are doing their own thing at the moment. Will one of those take over, or will it go outside the family? Remains to be seen. Chris Ford has just entered the competition. Mark Whiting has entered the competition. We're now up to 17 entries. Keep them coming in. Now, thanks to the bottomless travel budget that we have here at the Breakfast Show. We've already been to Staffordshire, we've been to Australia, and now we're heading off to South Africa, home of Bell Heavy Industries and the birthplace of some of the company's best known products. This is what it looks like. Yeah, pretty smart. Eh? Now, Chris Ford has mentioned something here, and I do want to address this because it's something that we discussed up at JCB, actually. Chris says, now notice that electric car manufacturers are looking into hydrogen in a big way. Yes, they are. One of the things that occurred to me was this. If you were... We all know that electric is available now, up to 20 and a bit tons, with Volvo on their wheel loaders and their excavators. There's a couple of other that are up to 20 tons on electric as well. You know that bit where you get the notification that your iPhone or your Android, don't know why you'd run another Android, but if you do, you get a notification to say that you can apply for an upgrade. And when you actually look at the upgrade, you can buy, let's say, the iPhone 15, but you know full well that in 6 months, 8 months, the iPhone 16 will be coming out. I wonder what is happening in the field of electric equipment sales at the moment. if you are buying a machine, now bearing in mind the lifetime of a machine is what, 5, 6, 7 years maybe, are people now starting to sit on the fence thinking, well, I could have an electric, but if I wait a little bit longer, I could go hydrogen. Now, that might not be actually the case right here, right now, but in a year or two's time, is that going to be the case? Are we going to start to see people taking a bit of a step back and thinking, actually, the way forward is going to be hydrogen, and that's the way we want to go? Chris Ford says, best entry to a competition yet. Has Ken entered? I don't know if Ken has entered. We'll find out soon enough, I'm sure. Peter McKenna says, you should feature Welder Fabber on your show. I do actually watch him occasionally over on Instagram. To be honest, I'm not really overly keen on featuring other content creators. I mean, listen, whatever. I don't care. I don't mind. But it's a bit of a con. It's a bit of a con. You'll see a lot of people, particularly when they're on their way up, and I'm not saying I've cracked Instagram by any means, but a lot of people when they're on the way up, they do what they refer to as collabs or collaborations. So the idea basically is I feature you on my channel, and then as a result of featuring you on my channel, I hope that some people will leap across from your channel and come and sit. I don't really want to be doing that. Listen, I'm more than happy to give a leg up to somebody, particularly if they're just starting out and I think that what they're doing is good. But Welder Fab is doing absolutely fine without my assistance. Maybe if our paths cross at some point, we'll have a chat, but not looking to do it at the moment. Mick Saunders says, Chris, been watching how they're dealing with battery cells and catalytic converters. Peter McKenna says, car manufacturers are losing millions of pounds due to electric cars not selling. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. Don't worry, Jim. Ken's going on holiday, so we stand a chance. Peter McKenna says there's a recycling centre for EV batteries in the UK. Shame it set on fire a month or so ago. Let's have a look. Mix on this says VW pulled away from Polestar as they are concentrating on hydrogen. Yeah, I think a few people are going to be doing exactly the same. Do you know, I actually sat down, and I'll be absolutely honest, I'm not going to name names, but I was actually sat at dinner on Monday night with one of the real top dogs at JCB. Lord alone knows why they sat me next to him. I was effing and jeffing like the best of them. But I was sat with one of the guys then, and we were talking about that and about the fact that we are at such a point of transition particularly with alternative energy, but also with technology as well. You think about it. I mean, JCB, and I actually said to him, JCB are not as big as Caterpillar. They're not as big as Komatsu. They're not as big as XCMG or Liebherr. But if I were a betting man, and I said this to the guy, if I were a betting man, who do I think will be the first across the line with a hydrogen, a commercially available hydrogen machine? I do genuinely believe that it is likely to be JCB. Could they steal a march? Could they bump themselves up the rankings? Be interesting to see. Ken Hatcher says, I think diesel, hydrogen, electric will all have their place. What about a nuclear machine? You imagine turning up for work in a nuclear machine. I think a lot of plant hire companies will go hydrogen. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. The only thing I would say is look at the experience with electric. And I know there are pros and cons, and we are going to be talking about electric machines later in the show, but also further down the line with JCB, because they did launch an electric 3-ton dumper. No major plant hirer has really got their feet wet in the electric sphere. They've dipped their toes in, but nobody has jumped in wholeheartedly, because plant hire and rental companies are notoriously conservative. They will wait until there's a real market demand for electric or for hydrogen before they make the jump. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead says hydrogen versus electric, like VHS versus Betamax. And my dad went Betamax. So we ended up watching Rocky and E.T. a lot, because that was all we could hire at the time. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna says China are now producing nuclear batteries, and as such could see that tech in cars and mobile phones in the future. I'll need a leg up, says Dan Cullen. Can you give me one? Do whatever I can, Dan. You're a loyal supporter. I'll do whatever I can. And Mick Saunders says, good idea, Ken. Not sure what would happen if one was to have a meltdown. Is that the machine having a meltdown or the operator having a meltdown? It's a tight thing, I think. Right, now, we have been talking a lot about JCB. I'm going to very quickly remind you, that is up for grabs now. I'm not going to bore you with it too much. We are up to 17 entries. If you haven't done so already, please type JCB into the chat for your chance to win. It is a pretty exclusive. In the meantime, I need to do one of these.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Okay, people, I've already shown you a roundup video of what we saw at JCB and at their Kevin Quarry, their demonstration area yesterday. We'll be bringing you lots of walk-around product introduction films over the next few days and weeks as we get them edited. Didn't get back till fairly late last night, so yeah, those will be coming fairly soon. But while we're doing all of that, it's time to bring you up to speed with the latest developments of what is perhaps JCB's most iconic product. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Anyone saying that the backhoe loader is dead, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. I'm going to throw over on that very point too. Where has he gone? He's here somewhere. I'm sure Dan Cullen said something about that. Lost it. Completely lost it. But somebody did point, there we are. It was Peter McKenna actually said, I see JCB 180 sales are on an upward trend here in the UK again. They most certainly are. They most certainly are. And I'm going to pick up very quickly on Steve Williamson. Morning, Steve. Says, I love how you can now drive the JCB and steer while facing rearwards. I said this should have been the case years ago. Interested to know if there is a brake pedal for that. There is. There is. When you turn the seat round, you've got you're driving by lever, so you're steering by lever, but you've got a brake and an accelerator pedal rear facing. I didn't get to take it for a spin, which is probably just as well for all concerned at the Kevin Quarry, but not sure what the visibility is, because obviously, I mean, you can offset the boom, but you do have the boom in front of you. But for short journeys, just to pop the machine over there, rather than having to do the 3-point turn or sometimes the 15-point turn, you can now drive it rearward, and it is called dual drive. And it's a dual drive system exclusive to JCB, and hats off to them. Again, I keep saying this. There are tasks and applications in which a backhoe loader, to my mind, you guys know better, but to my mind, it is unbeatable. And with the latest generation of its iconic backhoe loader, I sincerely hope the market will now see the error of its ways. Yes, a telehandler is very capable. Yes, a wheeled excavator or a mini excavator, very capable. But anything with that capability, I'm not sure. I still think it is the workhorse of the industry, and it's going to be staying that way for quite some time, for the foreseeable future, I would imagine. Now, we do need to go over to, let me get rid of that. I will come back to all the chat in just a second, but we're going to throw one of these up. Now, that's a bit of a worry. Yeah, you may have to bear with me for just a second, but let me throw this up first. I'm treading water because there's another video uploaded which didn't before for some reason. Peter McKenna says the 3CX is a Swiss Army knife of the construction industry, 100%. Gary Muirhead bizarrely said exactly the same thing. Absolutely true. Steve Williamson says, where was the front camera for fork work? When I was on a 3CX Contractor Pro for 5 years, most pallet work was guesswork. Well, no longer. If you look very closely at that video, if you watch it back, and I probably got some photographs here, haven't really been through the press pack as yet, but you've got a high camera up above the cab looking down, and you've also got one actually on the carriage, so you're down looking. It'll become clear when you see it, but you've got two cameras looking at the forks, and I did get to see that in action, and it is as precise as all balls. Not sure that's actually the expression, but it really is. Footy says, still think do as much with a rubber duck as someone can do with a JCB 180. Rubber duck comes into its own. Listen, it's horses for courses, but if I were starting business today as an owner operator, I want to be as completely versatile. I'd be looking backhoe loader all day long. However, Steve Williamson, who knows about these things, says, I disagree that a 3CX is better than a duck. Takes up less room around site work. It's a good point. But as I say, anyone pronouncing the JCB or the backhoe loader, but the JCB in particular, dead, I think you're at least premature. A JCB, other brands are available, often known as a Go, 4, or a Fetch It. Yeah, it certainly was. The low-down camera is a great feature for when using direct mount forks. Yeah, they've done a lot of work on that kind of thing, particularly the forks. The forks work differently now. You've got better visibility to the forks. And as you saw from that video, we've got different, obviously we've got the 3CX and we've got the 4CX, but there's the Pro version as well. There's one that's been set up specifically for forks. Obviously, you've got the dual drive option as well. Lots and lots of things going on. So yes, all good stuff. Now, I did say we were going to play another video. We are. It took a while to load, but I've got it all keyed up now. So I've already played you the intro. We've spent 2 days being surrounded by the very best of British. It's now time to head to France to see the very best of Germany, actually. Do need to apologise for the music if that was too loud. Peter's 2,000 watt surround sound was going crazy. My apologies for that. I didn't get a chance to equalise it because I had to upload it directly. I apologise. Dan Cullen says another roller, similar to Ham. Do you know it is? Mick Summers says, "Bloody hell, it is loud." Took my ear trumpet away from the deaf side. So, my apologies. I will do my best to level these out in the future. I'm going to come back to a point that's just been made in a second, but and I mean this in the nicest possible way. JCB launched, let me think, a couple of new skid steer loaders, a bunch of new backhoe loaders, a couple of new mini excavators, a 3-ton electric dumper, all of which, us press were all pouring over and everything else. And the way that the day worked was they paraded each machine. So here's the 2 mini excavators, take them away. Here's the dumper. Here's the skid steers. Here's the backhoe loaders. And at the very end of it, here's 2 new tandem vibratory rollers. And then they brought them all back because all of the press wanted to, we want to have a drive of the backhoe, we want to take the electric dumper for a spin and so on down the line. The rollers never came back. I think it's because it is such a specialist product that the combined UK and French press just went, don't know enough about compaction. Let's go and take a spin on a backhoe loader. It's absolutely true. The JCB skid steers do look the part. Yeah, the as you saw, what was the reach on it? I think was it 4 meters, 4 meter upward reach. It's pretty damn smart. Dan Cullen says, nice but very small screen, roller not been updated only to electric. Why not a cab? Why not a cab? Indeed. Dan Cullen enjoyed the music as well. Chris Ford says, I saw a video yesterday of a cat machine in America being driven by a bloke in France. What happens when you encounter bad ground conditions? Sorry to be negative. Those are all things that need to be addressed by the manufacturers when it comes to autonomous machines or remotely controlled machines, particularly if you're remotely controlling from a great distance. Now, I'm going to come back to this at the very end of the show when I can find it. How many operators do you see doing their daily checks? I will come back to that after the show is over. But it is time to find out who has won that very exclusive JCB gift. Let me throw this up on the screen. As you can see, we have 18 entries. 18 entries, and I'm about to draw. If anybody hasn't typed the letters JCB into the chat already, please do so now. No spaces. Don't worry about whether it's capitals or not. Uppercase, lowercase, JCB, no spaces. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Graham Footy Williams has won himself the prize. And my apologies. I must have typed JCB into the chat at some point because I found out I was entered as well. I would have given it back. I do promise because, that's the kind of guy I am. But Footy, you've won. I will need your address at some point, my friend. If you can send that over to me. I know I've had it in the past, but just to be absolutely sure, please let me have your address because you are now the proud owner of that. Let me get that off the screen. That very fine specimen. Let's have a look. Congratulations, Footy, says Andy Darvell. Gary Muirhead says, well done, Graham. And well done, Graham. Peter McKenna says, didn't see my name in the draw. I tell you what, let me have a very quick look. It's beyond my control anyway, but this is not the draw. It's already been done. Graham Williams, Footy has already won, but let me just have a look. Yep, I saw Peter there. Yeah, Peter, you are definitely there. Definitely there. So I'm just going to, if I can add, you just went through. Chris, you haven't won, but I've just been having a look. You are definitely there. So, yeah, that's it. Graham Footy Williams has won the prize. Congratulations to you, sir. As I say, let me have your address and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. Won't be today because I've got duties to perform this afternoon, but we'll do it as soon as we can. So that's about it for the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues, and I hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination. Stick around. Let's talk about JCB. Let's talk about electric and hydrogen. Let's talk about a whole bunch of things, including whether operators actually do their daily pre-start checks. We'll do all of that when I come back after the crack. Right, let's have some music, shall we? Should we have a bit of this? I think we should. Let's take the sound way down. That's better. I'm going to lose the banner off the bottom of the screen because we already know that Footy has won the prize. Congratulations to you, sir. Let's go back to the beginning of the chat and we'll get into all of the nitty-gritty in just a second. Dan Cullen now knows that you can actually, if you're over on YouTube, you can actually comment before the show even starts. So he's actually put the countdown has begun. Yes, and I was actually sat here doing my pre-flight checks before we didn't check quite closely enough because the microphone was off and the Bomag video wasn't where it needed to be. But I did most of my checks anyway. Let's have a look. That was me saying, I did. Listen, I'm a JCB fan. I don't care who knows it. I'm a JCB fan. Always a fantastic trip up there. We got to stay, once again, do this quite a lot now, actually. We used to stay in various hotels up and around Rochester and Uttoxeter, including the very, very nice St George's Park, which is where the England football team train. But since JCB has built its golf course, and they have some lodges there. So, yes, we were in the lodges there. Now, on that basis, not everyone gets to go to the JCB golf course. I fully understand that. But tomorrow, even if you've never been, you can smell like you have, because, and I apologise to the people at JCB, but I stole the goods. There you are. I've got some smellies, some smellies from the JCB golf course. It smells really, really, really expensive, and it probably is. If you have a very close look, I don't know how well you can see it, but it is actually Bamford branded. Yes, you can smell like JCB, the good bit, not the greasy bit, but you can smell like JCB. We'll be giving those away on the show tomorrow. So if you are a bit whiffy, and listen, you're in a cab for a long period of time, if you're a bit whiffy, I can make you smell like $1 million. Tune in tomorrow and we'll do what we can. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen joined the show first because he was here before the show even started. Peter McKenna was next off the mark. Morning, Peter. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Glenn Johnston is or possibly was in the house. Morning, Glenn. Gary Muirhead is here as well. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Thank you very much indeed. Peter McKenna getting slightly carried away. We have missed you, oh mighty one. I can only assume that was a message intended for somebody else, but yes. Good morning, you top men. Another day, another dollar. Yes, it would be nice to make $1 today, wouldn't it? Could do with it. Dan Cullen is saying, I didn't mean to star that, I meant to display it. There you are. Happy Valentine's Day to all your operators out there working hard. Yes, big, huge, girly love out to all the working men and women who are currently pulling and pushing levers. I've just realised the music has gone off yet again. Let me loop that. Yeah, that's better. Barely audible, but we do need it in the background. Andy Dovell says, morning. Good morning to you, sir. Then lots of people telling me that I was running on silent. You may just have to put up with me starting with a bit of sound, I'm afraid, because I'm not very good at remembering that. Lots and lots of entries for our competition. I think we ended up with about 18 or thereabouts. Yeah, lots and lots of entries for that. There was our question of the day, which obviously coincide with the fact that today is Valentine's Day. Who or what was your first love? Peter McKenna. So it'd be nice to think that this was the case. We are all loved by someone, somewhere, somehow. It'd be nice to think that that was the case. There's my other half wishing me a happy Valentine's Day. Yes, I'm just going to go back to this one from Gary. Did I ask why JCB isn't going to Intermat? It was interesting, actually, because normally when we go to JCB, it's either a national press, so you have, me and Earth Movers and Peter from Content with Media and various other people, or it's an international, in which case you have plane loads of people coming in from literally across the world. Yesterday, bizarrely, was the Brits and the French, and the French are a lovely bunch of fellas actually. Yeah, got on like a house on fire, and yeah, we had a great old time. And yet, despite the fact that they'd done that with the French, no, there is no current plans for JCB to be at Intermat. As I say, it was the first show they ditched apparently, and doesn't look like they're planning to go back, which is a damn shame. Would love to see them over there. Particularly, this is just up the road. I keep saying that. Lots and lots of guesses on our mystery machine, which, as we know, was the JCB 712 articulated dump truck. I can't actually remember. It must have been late 1980s, because I was still at Contract Journal at the time. I was actually invited to the launch of that way back when. So that late 80s, 33, 34, 35 years ago. Yeah, I was there when that machine was unveiled, and then I was back there again yesterday watching other JCB machines being unveiled. Questions on who or what was your first love? I had a favourite cow at my uncle's farm. She was amazing, says Peter. He does clarify that he was 8. I think that's acceptable. If you'd been like 25, I think we'd be on slightly dangerous ground there. Gary Muirhead, no great surprise. Has to be steel wrist, of course. When did you first encounter steel wrist, Gary? Were you but a youth? Were you a callow youth at the time, and that's why it stuck with you? As your first love endured? Or are you just doing this for effect? I know you do love your JCB, but was it really your first love? There was nobody or nothing before? Maybe. It's all possible. As I say, lots and lots of guesses on our mystery machine. I did go for throwback purely to try and throw you off the track, but it didn't work. Lots and lots of people having a guess, and then we gradually whittled it down. Was it the 2-axle articulated dump truck? Yes, it was. And there we are. There was the winning entry from today. JCB 712 ADT. It most certainly was precisely that. Mark Whiting's in the house. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Peter McKenna, I don't know where he's dug this up from, but it does look like it's off the JCB website. Proven reputation. Since JCB introduced the popular 712 and 716 in the late 1980s, we've relaunched and expanded our ADT range, bringing in the styling of the new range reveals a lot of the design and engineering process that lie beneath, built with underlying comfort, reliability and capability in mind. Don't know why, but it didn't last. It was there for a good few years. I don't know how many years. It felt like 10, maybe it was there for a decade or so, but it didn't survive. And yet you look now, it was very much ahead of its time. JCB, if you're listening, restyle it, bring back the 712 and the 716. I'd love to see it. Let's have a look. Steve Williamson joined us as well. He does actually enter our question of the day, and he says, question of the day, Kirsty, which is his wife, and then the Volvo with the tilt rotator and GPS. I think you, bearing in mind, relatively newly married, I think you very diplomatically got your order right. Well done, Steve. He says, beast of a Liebherr, that another machine on the list I'd like to have a go on. Yeah, I could. And I know, let's have a look. I know Ken Hatcher actually says, very boring driving that, but imagine being sat in that. You would feel like the dog's doodles, would you not? Dan Cullen, yes, I am not far from Wimbledon at all. Hop on a skip. Four stops on the train, I think, or thereabouts. Fantastic machine, but still love the O&K RH range of equipment for earth movers. Yeah. And the colour scheme helped. White with a bit of red. Loved all that. BCM, we clarified, or I say we, Ken Hatcher clarified, billion cubic meters. That is an animal of a machine, and well done to the lady operating it. Yeah, funnily enough, I was talking to one of the guys at JCB about my trip to Japan. All of the big high-reach excavators in Japan that I saw, all operated by women in their slippers and their little white gloves. Yeah, why would you not? Why would you not? I bet they take very good care of their machines. Let's have a look. Yeah, I wonder what the cost is per cubic meter of dirt excavated. That And again, I mean, there is a calculation for that. I know when you're talking about particularly open cast coal mines, when you're talking about overburden removal, you're removing millions of tons to get your hands on a few thousand tons of coal. So you're moving dirt to get access to the coal. So obviously, it's all part of the operating costs. You've got to do your calculations pretty well to make sure that your all that earth that you're moving is actually going to pay back in terms of coal. Well, that's one thing about Down Under, all huge equipment. It most certainly is. Steve Whitehead, thank you very much indeed for being here. Thank you very much indeed for taking part in the competition. Gary Muirhead, has he not retired yet? No, listen, it's a slightly odd one, this one. As I say, didn't get to see Lord Bamford yesterday. I'm sure the helicopter was in, but I didn't see him at all. But there is a strange thing with JCB. I know it's tempting to look at JCB as, he is this mysterious figure who presides over the company and stuff, but he really is absolutely intrinsically involved. And I'll give you an idea. I was talking to JCB Digger Girl, Georgina, about this. We did a video thing with JCB maybe 3 years ago now, not long after we'd started doing live shows, but we did one of an evening, and I got a message literally while I was on air to say that the chairman of JCB, i.e. Lord Bamford, was tuned in. And speaking to Georgina yesterday, she said that she's been given a remarkable amount of freedom. Obviously, she's employed by JCB, and she has to be very careful that she does nothing to tarnish the great brand that JCB is. But she's been given a remarkable amount of freedom to go and make her videos and almost put out what she likes, so long as it's in keeping with the JCB ethos. And the reason she has that freedom was because the chairman, Lord Bamford, saw what she was doing and went, "I like that. Get that girl to do more of it." So that girl is doing more of it, and she's doing a bloody good job. As I say, listen, I'm not here to blow smoke up anyone's back end, but myself and Fred pointed a camera at Georgina yesterday before she did her You're Watching the Breakfast Show, and she was talking about the Falk backhoe loader. We pointed a camera at her and just said, just introduce yourself and take us through the machine. One take. Every item on that machine, one take. And that really does take some doing. So yeah, I mean, I can fully understand why they are pushing the JCB Digger Girl. She's doing a fantastic job there, and long may it continue. Now, Chris Ford, going on to all things electric. The electric car manufacturers looking into hydrogen in a big way. Yeah, they are. And as I said, if you were Sunbelt Rentals, if you were Lynch, or if you were Flannery, and you wanted an environmental alternative to diesel, would you right now say we're going to go all in on electric, or would you want to sit on your hands for another year, 2 years, 3 years until hydrogen takes its place, at least in some applications? I think there is going to be an application there. Peter McKenna, what's this? To buy the new Porsche RS Turbo, you need to have purchased up to £2 million worth of Porsche cars in the past. Select list of buyers. Even if you've had the £200,000 in cash in a briefcase, they still wouldn't give you a sniff. That's an interesting point. I don't know if anybody ever watched the Black Mirror series of satire comedy shows. There was one on there, nothing to do with Porsche, but there was one that they did about a social media influencer who suddenly saw her follower level and her influence declining. And she was refused entry into certain restaurants, and she couldn't go to certain places because her following wasn't quite up to scratch. It was, as I say, it was done as a satire, but this, you can only buy a Porsche now if you've bought 2 million quid worth of Porsche in the past. Really limited edition. Ken Hatcher says, good stereo sound on this film. Which film was that? Probably the Liebherr, I would imagine. There's Ken leaving. No win today for Ken, which is interesting. Chris Ford picked up on it as well. Best entry to a competition yet. And has Ken entered? Yes, he did. but he didn't win. Great tune and video quality. We aim to please. Ken's pizzering off. Yes, he was. If Ken has entered, we're all pissing in the wind, says Jim. Turns out you weren't, because Footy walked away with the prize. Let's have a look. Car manufacturers are losing millions of pounds due to electric cars not selling yet. Yeah, a friend of mine actually has a Tesla, and for the first 2 years he owned it, was a very, very vocal advocate for all things Tesla, how marvelous it was, and how reliable it was. Now he's seeing the depreciation. Now he's seeing the fact that the battery doesn't work particularly well when it's cold out, and charging times are sometimes not what they were cracked up to be. Interesting. Let's have a look. Footy says, I personally believe hydrogen is the way to go. Don't think electric is going to kick off. Could well be. Andy Dovell says, BMW are stopping producing electric vehicles in 2025 and going forward with hydrogen as well as diesel and petrol for now. Yeah. It's interesting, and I'm hoping to be able to do something more. It's going to be very, very tight. There is a consultation going on in the UK at the moment called the Non-Road Mobile Machinery consultation, and it's government led, and the government, and I have to say, I don't very often do this, but the government has done the right thing. Rather than just mandating how we all go about powering our equipment in the future, they've reached out to both the manufacturers and the users of equipment and said, tell us what you believe to be the way forward, because otherwise you could end up with them just mandating electric, even though electric is possibly not the best solution. So they've reached out to the manufacturers. JCB have been working very, very closely with the government, and they'll be doing so going forward. All of that comes to a head. The consultation closes, I think, on the 26th of March. But as I say, there was a possibility that somebody could have just said, in the government said, henceforth, all cars and vehicles and equipment will be electric powered. Thankfully, they've had the good sense to take a step back and say, okay, tell us more. What should we be doing? My personal belief that is as a result of that, bearing in mind, as Tim Burnhope at JCB said, this goes from chainsaws with a couple of kilowatts of power up to a port handler with a couple of 1,000 kilowatts of power and all points in between. My guess is we will end up with a mandated mix of electric and hydrogen. Quite where the cutoff point is remains to be seen, but I think that's the way we're heading. But I've already got the groundwork in place. I am going to try and get somebody from JCB, and it would be fantastic if I could get Tim Burnhope, because he knows his stuff, he knows his onions. If I could get him on before that decision is made, so that he can talk to us about it. If I can do that, I most certainly will. Chris Ford says, could one day JCB be the leading manufacturer of hydrogen engines worldwide? Yeah, they could. It's interesting. I mentioned about, I know Gary Muirhead asked about whether Lord Bamford was up for retirement. And I want to make sure I get this the right way round. He has two sons, Joe and George. George is quite active doing his designer watches and stuff, but he is very actively involved in JCB, whereas Joe is off doing all things hydrogen, including hydrogen engines, hydrogen buses, and all of that kind of thing. Which one will end up taking the reins? If it's either of them, will they do it as a joint thing? But JCB, as it stands today, I've got no axe to grind here. They're not paying me to say it. As it stands today, I think JCB have stolen a march on the competition, and yes, they could quite easily leap up the yellow table of manufacturers because they were so quick to embrace all things hydrogen. Watch this space. Ken Hatcher says, I think diesel, hydrogen, electric will all have their place. What about a nuclear machine? Should we figure out hydrogen before we worry about that? I think that might be an idea. Let's have a look, rattle through here. Kent Demolition. Dave Paget is in the house. Unfortunately, didn't win, but good morning, Dave. Good of you to be here. Love how you can now drive the JCB and steer while facing rearwards. I said this should have been the case years ago. Interested to know if there's a brake pedal for that. There's a brake pedal and there's an accelerator pedal. Obviously, you don't have a steering wheel. You're driving by levers. I don't know what the situation is for roading in that direction. My guess is there would be a question mark over it because of visibility, because you do have the boom. The boom is offset, so you've got I would say probably 80% forward vision, but you will have a boom blind spot. Is that roadable? I don't know the answer to that. I probably should have asked, but I didn't. I didn't get a chance. Maybe when I'm up there in March, I'll do that. But yes, they do certainly have. They have brakes and accelerators facing in both directions. That music is right up my street. What music was that? Was that I can't even remember what we had on the show. I'm still on JCB time at the moment. Was that the bell? Or was that the backhoe loader? Don't know. Can't remember. Mixona says, also notice how they're really watching what is tipped out of scrap lorries very closely. First sign of a lithium battery, they'll stop the load being tipped as they had one catch fire in the baler. Yeah, you don't want to be messing about with lithium ion because not only does it burn, it won't stop burning. It just burns and burns and burns. Yep, this was one of the things that was mentioned. As I say, the rumour of the demise of the backhoe loader, very, very premature. We are on the up and up again. It would be interesting to see how that all pans out over the coming months, because obviously we've got house building is struggling at the moment, which apparently is precisely the reason that Barratt are buying Redrow, because Redrow may not have made it through. So yes, house building, and obviously JCB's 180 sales, some of them go into house building. So with that going down, is that going to be maintained? Be interested to see. Chris Ford says, would nuclear powered cars glow in the dark? I'd like to think they would. What was the Injury song? There's some awfully clever bastards out there. Yes, there are. After all, Jesus was reported to be able to turn water into wine. Useful talent. Not for me. I'd rather have the water personally, but yeah, interesting talent. Fantastic kit. And yes, the JCB 3CX is an icon. It is. In a very different way, when you look at the industry, if you were to try and describe visually the industry, I think the 3CX, the shape of a 3CX, the way that it looks would be one. I think a Bobcat skid steer loader would be another, and maybe a high drive tractor from Caterpillar, a D10, D11, something like that. It just signifies this industry, I think. Stick steer, game changer, says Mark Whiting. Yeah. Chris Ford, I'm inclined to agree with that. The backhoe loader is still the most versatile machine out there. Very few drivers wanted to or were able to drive them. JCB are very aware of that. They are, I don't have my notes with me, but they are doing a lot in the field of training, actually opening up or working with training providers to basically give us a whole new generation of backhoe loader operators, highly trained on the very, very, very latest machines. It'd be interesting to see how that pans out, but I do think it's interesting that the manufacturer not just throwing the machines out there and hoping for the best, they are actually facilitating it by working with training providers to make sure, obviously they want to make sure that the operators are safe, but they're also going to make sure that those operators are getting the very best out of what is, it is a pretty complex machine. It's not, it's not a one-trick pony, as somebody says there. It is a Swiss Army knife. In fact, two people said that. It is a Swiss Army knife. So you really do need to know what you're doing. I actually did a week's training on a JCB backhoe around about 1989. All of it's fallen out my head since then. But yeah, I literally up at the JCB factory, I did a week up there learning to drive a backhoe loader. And it is, even for a decent operator, there's a lot to learn. There was the front camera for fork work. When I was on 3CX Contractor Pro for 5 years, most pallet work was guesswork. No longer. There is, as I say, high camera, low camera. You're good to go. The dual drive is the best new feature for a long time. Jim, I totally agree. And I actually bumped into one of the main JCB backhoe guys yesterday. And I know his first name is Julian, but his second name has gone completely out of my head. Doesn't matter. But I spoke to Julian yesterday. And he said, what did you think of the dual drive? And I said, I think it's brilliant. It makes perfect sense. And he actually said, he chuckled and he said, I can't believe we didn't think of it before. You think, this is a guy been intrinsically involved in JCB backhoe loaders for years and years and years. He's rebuilt some of the old ones privately because he is a complete enthusiast. And even he, when they finally came up with the dual drive, it was like, we should have done that maybe 20 years ago. Can't believe we're only now thinking about it. But yeah. Dan Cullen says, yes, that would be quick on site, less time turning. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I know we talk about time, and I know we're going to come back to Steve in a second. I think one of the key selling points of a tilt rotator is that ability to do lots of stuff without having to shift the machine. So, you know, you can go all around a post or whatever it might be. That's a key consideration. And it's not just a key consideration from a productivity point of view, but it's also all the time you're backing up, backing forward, you're doing all of this, you're burning fuel. If you don't need to do that, if you don't need to do, here, there and everywhere, if you can just drive it backwards slightly, saved fuel, and given the cost of fuel at the moment, yeah. Learned this morning, Develon is pronounced Divelon or Divelon. I don't know if anybody saw it. We featured a video a little while ago of the company itself celebrating its first anniversary under the Develon brand, and they had about 40 different people from within the company, and no two of them actually pronounced it the same. Develon, Develon, Divelon, Develon. Who knows? A JCB, other brands are available, often known as a Go For or a Fetch It. I used to be known as a Go For as well. I disagree. 3CX is better than the Duck. Takes up less room around site work. Okay. The low down camera is a great feature for when using the direct mount, folks. It most certainly is. Duck with a tilt rotator and trailer will put a 3CX to shame. Site work is tight enough. 360 slew is far better. Interestingly, and I don't know quite how we're going to pull this off. JCB made some claims yesterday about the fact they have a slogan to coincide with the launch of the new backhoe loaders, and that slogan is do more for less. And they reckon that they have proved, and I'm trying to remember, I think one of the things was leveling an area. Again, I've not got the notes in front of me, but they basically pitted a 3CX against a Duck, and the 3CX won out. Now, two things, and JCB are very aware of this. JCB said that. Now, bear in mind, JCB do sell rubber ducks, so they're not deliberately trying to cannibalize their own market share and stuff like that. But they said that they'd done the side-by-side test. They'd actually filmed it, but they hadn't released the film purely because it looked false. It looked like, well, JCB would say that because they sell backhoe loaders. So they'd never released the film. And one of the things that we were kicking about there yesterday was the idea of actually going somewhere and replicating the test ourselves as diggers and dozers and demolition news to see if we could come up with the same result. It will be very interesting. I don't know how we're going to fund it. I don't know where we're going to do it. I don't even know if it's possible. But if we can figure out a way of doing that, because I do think that would make for very interesting viewing. Did JCB mention any release date for the X Series Duck? No, they did not. And again, we're back there in March, back at the 20th and 21st of March, I think I'm back up there. And I asked about a dozen different people yesterday, so what's happening in March? I won't print it, but just let me know. What are we going to see in March? Not a word. Not a word. They would not be drawn into that at all, so I've no idea. Could that be an X-Series Duck? Who knows? Could well be. Footy says if I was going into business, I'd have a 180 and a rubber duck. Both do as good a job as each other. JCB backhoe can be driven to site, saving money in the long run over ducks. Yeah, I have to say, I would rather drive a 3CX over distance than I would a duck. I have to agree with that. That was the Bomag video. That geezer stood there like a Lego model site worker. Yes, he was a bit, wasn't he? Peter McKenna says there should be no cabless machinery nowadays in the construction industry. Everything should have a cab to protect the operator from the elements. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but we live in a country where roughly 85% of all equipment that is sold goes into rental. And if the rental operators are not willing to pay for a cab, then you will have machines without a cab. You'll just have a ROPS bar. I don't I don't want to get into this too much, but one of the people that was at JCB yesterday, much to my astonishment, was somebody from the Worthing Advertiser. You know who the Worthing Advertiser is, and they unveiled the 3-ton electric dumper, and he spent about 10 minutes taking photographs of the ROPS guard on it with an old generation iPhone. I have no idea quite what he thought he was photographing. Or what he was planning to do with photographs. I mean, I'm talking literally close up of ROPS guards. So he would have like a section of ROPS. What are you going to do with that exactly? Do you know what ROPS stands for? I'm thinking probably not. And aren't they about 50 kilometers an hour now? Fast getting around. They certainly are bloody quick. As I say, I had a very quick spin yesterday. Chris Ford. How many operators do you see doing their daily checks? I have a notion on this, bearing in mind that we have telematics and all of the things now. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about the Live Link at JCB, and all the major manufacturers have exactly the same, well, not exactly the same system, but they have the same capability. Why are we still allowing operators to not do their daily checks? Why don't we? You can set the machine so that it can't be started unless your levers are down in the right position. You can't start it unless the seatbelt is in place. Why not just make it you can't start until you've gone through and pressed all of the buttons that say you've done your daily checks? Problem solved. The technology exists. I realise some operators would find it a pain in the arse, but the sort of people that would find it a pain in the arse are the people that are not doing their daily checks and who are ultimately costing their employers money. Why do we not do that? Yeah, why do we not do that? Let's have a look. The JCB skid steers do look the part. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, JCB have persisted with that one arm design. I remember when they first came out, a colleague of mine described it as the one-arm bandit, because obviously all skid steers to that point had been 2 arms, because that's how skid steers look. JCB decided to go with 1 arm, but they have side entry, so no clambering over buckets and attachments to get into the cab. You go in through the side, which I have to say is a lot easier. I'm not saying it's right, but I am saying it's a lot easier. There was always concern when we used to... good morning to Demo Attachments, who've just joined us over on Instagram. There was always a concern about the twisting motion. If you go into a pile with a one-arm skid steer, is that arm taking a bit of a battering? According to the stats yesterday, there is as much steel in the single-arm JCB as there is in 2 arms on a regular skid steer. Yeah, I have no way of proving that. They said that. I'm telling you what they said, but I have no way of verifying that. But that's what they said. Rattling through. Lots of people saying congratulations to Footy. Who'd be up for a day out at JCB? Me. I had a long chat with him yesterday. We've been talking about it for a while and talking about it at a distance, about the idea of me doing the Breakfast show from JCB. But the conversation was a lot deeper yesterday, and I was basically saying, if they can give me a room with decent Wi-Fi connection, we would. Well, the question was, how long would you want? And I said, if you can keep people coming in, I said, I'll go all day if you want. So the plan would be to have, let's say, the skid steer product specialist come in. We'll do half an hour with him. We'll play a video while he buggers off, and then somebody else comes in. Maybe we do backhoe loaders next. He goes or she goes. We do mini excavators after that. Then we do the loaders. We could go for hours. So watch this space. The conversation is ongoing. There we are. Steve Williamson says, I do my checks every morning during the day. I'm listening and looking if there is any change. If you're a good operator, you always know how the machine functions and sounds. Check shouldn't just be a morning thing, but an all-day thing. Totally agree. And isn't it funny how aware you become? We had a car, not this car, not the car before, but the car before that. Basically, one of the rear wheels just sheared off. And about a week before it happened, I'd heard this kind of, I don't think this is actually a word, but a graunching noise. It was like, I was like, the hell was that? I had a look around the car, couldn't see anything wrong, and then lo and behold, I'm driving along and the back wheel fell off and overtook me on fire, actually, which was good, landed in somebody's garden. And now, when I'm driving, it's a bit like I had a burst appendix, and I am acutely aware of that part of my body. Like the slightest twinge in the lower right-hand side of my stomach, it's like, hello. And very aware of driving a car now. You hear a noise that you shouldn't hear or you've not heard before. Become very, very aware. Chris Ford. When I smell like JCB, it's a combination of hydraulic oil and diesel. Yes, but tomorrow we could change all of that. I'll show you that one. Don't know how well that is going to display. But that is, what is that called? That is a pebble soap. And it is made by Bamford. Bamford, as in Lord, as in Joseph Cyril Bamford. If you'd like to win that, be here tomorrow. Why do some people always look miserable? Because that's how our face is arranged, Dan. Just the way our face is arranged. Our footy might have a start on a job tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Chris Ford says, obviously no farmers amongst the French contingent, as you'd have got along with them like a machine on fire. No, they were all journalists and a nice bunch of people. Very nice bunch of people. Dan Carlin says, I may be in Wimbledon next week working. Let me know, Dan. Obviously, I do this. And if I do this, it's going to take me probably half an hour to get to Wimbledon. But if I can pop down and see you, more than happy to do that. Coffee's on me. What was your first love? Was our question of the day. Chris Ford, diggers. And when he's done with the diggers, more diggers. Yeah. Peter McKenna says most of the crane operators in China and Japan are women. Can't for the life of me figure out why. I can only assume it's because they take such bloody good care of the machine. We got in it was a Kobelco machine on one of the sites we visited in Japan, and I this is not a sexist thing. This is a genuine thing. This little girl, I reckon she was probably 20, 21 years old, and she was tiny, maybe 4'10", tiny little thing she was. Got out and she had these pristine white gloves, a little pair of white slippers, navy blue overalls, which everyone wears in Japan, with high-vis stripes on it and everything else. And she sort of gestured, go and have a look in my machine. You would swear blind that the thing had just rolled off the production line. It smelled of polish. It was unbelievably clean. Unbelievably clean. Maybe that's the reason. All you see in India is JCB. I wonder how many sales there are. Lots. That's why JCB have a factory over there. And again, going back to the conversations we had yesterday, I realised that it's very, very tempting, to look at JCB and think of JCB, Joseph Cyril Bamford. He started the company. He came up with the backhoe loader and the telescopic handler and a bunch of other products as well. But Joe Bamford made the company that big. Anthony Bamford, and I'm deliberately going off the screen, he took a British brand and made it global. And I do think sometimes that is lost in translation. What Lord Bamford has achieved there is pretty bloody remarkable, actually. Peter McKenna says, I'm on a dozer tomorrow for Thomas Plant on a PP O'Connor site. PP O'Connor, very good demolition company. Enjoy. Georgina is so intriguing. Her videos are very informative compared to some influencers. There is a difference, and I'm not going to get into this because I do need to be somewhere else in the not too distant future. But because she is tied to a brand, I think she actually has genuine influence. I think if you watch a Georgina video, like let's say she does something on the dual drive, and you're sat there thinking, shall I or shan't I? I think her insight and her ability to demonstrate would be enough to push you over the edge. Whereas if you've got somebody dancing in front of a machine, maybe not. And I do listen. I wonder if Georgina is the future, and I don't mean necessarily the future for JCB. Who knows how her life may pan out? Who knows what direction social media might go? But rather than employing the services of an external influencer who basically jump from brand to brand to brand. If you've got one yourself who is very, very good, and honestly, there is no money changing hands between me and JCB whatsoever. They invited me up, I did my job, I came back home again. There's no money changing hands at all. But I have to say, in front of a camera, Georgina is the best I've seen for a long, long time. Long time. Fair play to them. They've spotted that. And again, Lord Bamford, I like what that girl's doing. Get her to do more. That's the way it works. And she does do a fantastic job. Georgina, if you're watching, good morning. Who ordered the rain? I think it's a standing order around at this time of the year, isn't it? Peter McKenna says, sorry, folks, I'm off before the missus gets up. Better buy a card and a present. Yeah, it's always leave it to the day in question. That's always a good way to keep them sweet. There's a guy watching Toyota, doesn't like electric cars. So many problems. When they stop, you can't tow off the road as they lock all the wheels. Yeah, absolutely. Which is one of the reasons that the smart motorway system failed as well. Chris Ford says, non-road vehicle study, government backed, we're fucked. Do you know, interestingly, one of the things that I noted down while I was up there was actually the opposite of that. If you look at what's happening with the way that we are trying to figure out the embodied carbon thing in, should demolition be allowed to destroy embodied carbon? There's a bunch of trade associations going off on their own merry way, trying to figure out what to do. They're not including demolition in the conversation. Whereas over here on equipment, the government has actually said more, almost put their hands up and said, we don't know, but you do. Come tell us what we should be doing. I have to say, I personally believe that that's a step in the right direction. And I'm saying that as somebody that's got no faith whatsoever in government or politicians of any shape or colour, but they are doing things the right way. EVs are going to be charged for driving in London due to the extra weight. They're damaging the road network. Won't that change the landscape just a bit? Did you know all 180 ops don't have rear boom in correct position while travelling on roads? Yes, I did. You're meant to travel with it in centre and out, as they meant to have high-vis triangle on the back. Fact, says Dan Coven. Did not know that bit. Bear with me a second. I've just got a bit of an issue here that's about to resolve itself, I think. I'm a backhoe loader fan, says Jim Turner. It didn't resolve itself. I'm a backhoe loader fan, says Jim Turner. I haven't seen one on a housing site for about 8 years. Watch this space. I think they're coming back. Have a good day, gents. Our walk is time in the rain. The rain has stopped. Stay safe as always. Thanks very much indeed for that. Thank you. Julian Carter is the JCB backhoe loader man. I knew he was Julian because I spoke to him. I should have known his name was Carter. Just had a blank. I met so many people over the past few days. Just a blank. I was at Flynn's training open day. Georgina was there. Since they've bought a 3.6 for training. Dan, speaks volumes, doesn't it? Gary Muirhead getting in the steel wrist again. Steel wrist slogan, earth moving efficiency. Very true. Hard to argue with that. Very hard to argue with that. Dan Cullen says he's up for that video duck versus 180. Yeah, listen, if we can figure it out, imagine that if we could do that involving you guys, actually have one of you on a duck, one of you on a backhoe loader, side by side in a convenient location. We film the whole thing and then present our findings. Wouldn't that be cool? We shall see. Dan Cullen says he does his checks every day. Jim Turner says JCB made a one-arm loader when they first started. They certainly did. I think, is there one in the JCB Experience Museum? I feel like there is, but I can't actually remember. Steve says, sorry, had to go there. Steel wrist, pissing out oil. Need to have a word with them, Gary. Loose fittings, new as well. Well, you can't have everything, can you? Mark, we need to get a few of us on a day tour. I'd be up for it. Let me have a word, see what I can do. One Grandpa Old Paddy told me, we don't pay you to polish the machine, we pay you to work for it. I wasn't going to argue. It is true. But again, this is all part of the conversation we had there. I get to see other companies, particularly in the field of demolition, and who takes best care of their machines is the people that have their name on the side of the machine, either a name or a nickname, something like AR Demolition. They operate a one man, one machine policy. And those guys, because they are linked to that machine, those guys take enormously good care of those machines. So there's my feelings on it. Dan Carter says, I'd love to have my own machine or be a one-man machine. Can't get it at the moment, as this is hoping different machines weekly. You don't get to keep interested in that machine. I do clean every machine. Glad to hear it. That backhoe and duck comparison video is absolutely one pile of shit, so staged. Well, if we can replicate it, we shall see. I'm up for a tour if it happens, or pop over if the show airs from JCB. The conversation is ongoing. I'll keep you posted, people. I was planning to do this in about an hour today. It's an hour and 39, nearly an hour and 40 minutes. I do need to go. I've got to go places. So I'll be back here tomorrow with more of the same. Don't forget, if you're here tomorrow, you could end up smelling like JCB, sort of. So yes, join us if you can. Till then, everybody, I really appreciate all your input. Apologies again about yesterday, but I think you'll agree my trip to JCB was more than worth it. If not for you, then certainly for me. Footy, let me know your address. I'll get that in the post to you just as soon as I can. Everybody else, back tomorrow. See you then. All the best.